Well, we're back. This time I'm really excited because we've got a fellow buyer's agent, which is really cool because a lot of the times we're sticking to the real estate selling side. So today we're blessed to be up in Brisbane in the Cohen Handler office with the Navybox boys. We've got Jordan, James will be joining us as well, who are super successful as buyer's agents here in Brisbane and have built a phenomenal business with not only in their own team, but they've also got a pool that work with them in the office. So they've done phenomenally well. So it'll be really good to learn the ins and the outs of how to build a successful buyer's agency, but then also maybe some tricks of the trade that them as buyer's agents see that could help selling agents as well. So
yeah,
I think
phenomenal business. FYI, I just had a chat with the boys off camera, and I'm not going to say the numbers on screen and on record, but these boys are serious. Like, these are nuts numbers. You can't tell, obviously, from the outside looking in what buyers agents and what they do numbers wise. But I'm telling you guys right now, these guys are the real fucking deal. I'm keen. Let's do this.
all right, kick it, bro.
Mate, I think a good place where I'd like to start is a bit of an idea about like you yourself and what your journey's been like in real estate so far. Because I'll be honest with you, I don't know a hell of a lot about the business and what you guys do. So let's kick it right back from the start.
Yeah, mate. It's like super by chance. Like, it's super lucky that I'm in real estate, if I'm honest.
Sorry to interrupt. Just for those that don't know, you're related to Will and Jen Carr back in Sydney. Don't know why, I just had to introduce that.
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry, go.
And I've got to give some credit to them for me being in real estate, because I studied architecture at uni in Canberra. Would have been sort of 10, 12 years ago now. And coming away from that, I wanted to do some other studies back in Sydney, and I thought I'd better get some money so I can pay for uni, pay for going out, etc. Right? Living with mum and dad, and I was like, okay, so where am I going to work? And yeah, because my uncle Pat, Jenny, Will worked in real estate, I just bounced some ideas off them, and so I thought, yeah, okay, cool, I might do some real estate. So wanting to work in the inner city, went for a couple of interviews. This one guy said to me in the interview, he goes, do you have a scotch? It's like 2 p.m. in the afternoon in Mossman. I'm like, yeah, I could do a scotch. I'm like 19, 20. Like, yeah, this is pretty cool. So like from then on, I was like, oh, I don't really care about any of the other jobs that I've interviewed in. I just want this job.
Wow.
But it was a really awkward situation, because he said to me, he goes, so you know what a buyer's agent is? I was like, I don't know fucking idea what a buyer's agent is. But I didn't say that. And I was just sitting there like, shit, what am I going to say to this guy? And thank God he ended up proceeding to tell me what a buyer's agent was. He answered his own questions. So like,
wow.
Oh, phew. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. That's what a buyer's agent is. Yeah, I knew that. So that was pretty cool.
How old are we at this stage?
20 or 21.
20, 21. Cool.
Yeah. And so like I was hounding him every day, every 2 days for this job, and he was putting me off 2 weeks, 3 weeks. They didn't hire anyone, but it was like always another stage in the process. It was like, okay, now can you pretend that you're a buyer's agent, and can you show me what properties you would buy for these 3 clients if they were your client?
Ooh.
So like it put me really put me to the test. I spoke with multiple people in the office. In the meantime, I had like 3 or 4 other jobs offered to me in other offices, but they were real estate sales jobs. And it wasn't that I didn't want to be in sales. It was just for some reason I was so hooked on this business that I wanted to work for. And so, yeah, I fortunately got that job, and that was my first entry into real estate and into buyer's agency.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I learned so much from that.
How long did you stay as like an associate buyer's agent before you stepped out as your own?
So I was with them for, I think, 2.5 to 3 years. And it was at that point when I was at a crossroads, so going and being my own buyer's agent, looking at different career progression options within that company. But they bought a lot of properties in Brisbane, the Gold Coast, for their investors. So yeah, they did primary res, but they were a really big investment firm. And so we would go around Australia doing like conferences.
Wow.
Yeah, my boss at the time wrote books. And so that was really cool. And so we learned a lot about investing, and that's what brought me to Gold Coast and Brisbane. I still lived in Sydney, and our office was in Sydney, but we'd be flying up every fortnight, looking at houses, inspecting houses, and finding the good deals for our clients. So that's what taught me about the Brisbane market. And when I was up here, you'd call the agents and they'd like hang up on you the minute you say, hey, I'm Jordan, I'm a buyer's agent.
Really?
Beep. Yeah. And it took me a while to get to work. No, it didn't take me a while, like a couple of days to work out why, but they'd say, some of them who are nicer would just say, oh, how much do I have to give you if you buy this? And I'm like, nothing. I'm a buyer's agent. Oh, how does that work? I thought you conjunct with me. No, there's no conjunction.
Wow.
You know, I'm getting retained by the buyer. You keep all your fee. I'm just trying to find good properties for my clients.
So even the agents had no idea.
Up here, they had no idea. And there was a couple of buyer's agents, but there wasn't really that many, and they clearly went on the hustle, and the real estate agents didn't know who they were or what they did. Certainly not in the inner city.
Yeah.
And so that was a really big eye-opener for me. Had no responsibility, so I'm like, you know what? Brisbane could be really good for us. We bought an investment property up here in New Farm, and I'm like, you know what? Why don't we come up and have a crack at the Brisbane market? So I had that conversation with my employers at the time, but I also then just cold called Simon Cohen. I remember I was on the beach in the Gold Coast, not on the beach, I was just on the pathway walking past, and it was raining. And I just called him and I said, hey, he knew of me, I knew of him, but there was no relationship there. I said, hey, it's Jordan Navybox. I'm looking at buyer's agency in Queensland. I know you don't have any presence up here. Would you consider starting a buyer's agent with me up here? A buyer's agency.
With zero relationship.
Zero relationship. Never met the guy. And it's the funniest thing, he ended up saying, it's 3 a.m. I just got to my hotel in Positano. Can I see you in a week? I'll text you my business partner's number.
Wow. That's where it all started.
So that's where this sort of Queensland journey all started for me.
So when you moved up to Brisbane, you started your business with no actual base in Brisbane prior?
No, it was just like I'd been an associate buyer's agent in that other business for 2.5, 3 years. And I'd met a lot of real estate agents, and I knew a lot of real estate agents, and they'd started referring, which was really foreign at the time. All of my business traditionally came from, you know, the investment inquiry, you know, radio or online, digital, seminars, conferences, this type of stuff. And then, of course, past referrals. But the real estate agent referring thing wasn't a thing back then. And so in the time that I spent up here with that old firm, I did realise, oh no, they will refer once you've educated them that you're here to help. If you're a buyer's agent that's super confrontational, and obviously all of us can be confrontational, especially in negotiation phase, but on the whole, if you work with the real estate agents, you know, they can be so beneficial to buyer's agents, and I think that's where some people miss it slightly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I learned that, and so I was like, okay, well, we could make a really cool primary res development and investment buyers agency in Queensland, and you know, shared that story with Simon and Ben, and that's where we went from there.
How long did it take you to have that breakaway moment where you've hit momentum? How long did that take after opening the business?
I feel like it took me maybe 2 years to get to similar numbers that I was doing previously, with the help of that machine that they did have of marketing and that big lead generation funnel that they had. It's probably like a 2-year run between 2016 and 2018 to get up to that level on my own back.
Yeah, right.
Which was like, you know, awesome journey because it was so much more organic.
Yeah.
And so how did you prospect and generate business when you did come up? And what advice would you give to buyer's agents now?
It comes back to that real estate agent piece. Like, people say to me, they come with me with all these fantastic marketing ideas and all these things. Oh, I'm going to do this to lead generate, I'm going to do that to lead generate. I'm like, yeah, that's all great. Do that. But I just ask everybody, whether they work here or other people call me for advice, think about who meets more real estate buyers than any other person.
The agent.
Right? Yeah, brokers will refer. Yeah, solicitors will refer. Yeah, the pest and building guy will refer. We got a pest and building guy. He sends us off-market properties every day because he's doing the pre-purchase things.
Wow.
Yeah, he does the right thing though. He says, "Hey, pre-purchase inspection. Here's the agent. They told me I could tell you about it." Bang.
Wow.
So it's pretty cool. Yeah. So like, and obviously that's not a client lead. It's an off-market lead, but still. But yeah, in terms of client leads, there's no greater source than real estate agents. So if you work really closely with them and you can show the value to them, like, classic example, I see so many real estate agents running around being a buyer's agent for a buyer because they've got a property to sell in their area as soon as they buy. And buyers say it all the time. If you find me a house, I'll sell with you, right? But they say that to every other real estate agent. They'll stay true to the word, no problem. But
Most don't, by the way.
oh, really?
Most don't.
But yeah, so you should know that they're also out saying this to other agents and shopping around with other agents. And if they turn up to a McGrath auction on the weekend and buy it, that's the girl or the guy that's going to get that listing. So for us, it's like retain the relationship in-house. We can help the buyer buy. We've then got a pre-existing relationship with you. They're super stoked that you made the introduction to us. They're super stoked with the outcome that we've both provided. Stay along the journey with us. You can still call them. You can still call us, and we can keep you abreast of how the journey's going for that buyer. And you can be guaranteed that once we've bought that property for them, they're going to be selling that house with you.
Are you do you get more referrals from agents at particular price points? Because my average sale price is about 1.9. I don't have. I'll be honest. I've referred maybe like a handful of clients over the past couple of years to Beardwell. I just don't get that many opportunities. I don't feel. Is it more about coaching the agents about how to pop the question and ask for the referral, or is there a particular price point where naturally more referrals come from?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's like, and I'll go back for you really quickly. It's like when I started in Queensland, people were like, you're not in Sydney, mate. And when Simon started in Sydney, people go, you're not in America, mate. You know, and there's just this perception that the buyer has to be from interstate, or has to be super wealthy, or has to be super time poor to use a buyer's agent. But the fact of the matter is, in the current market, when we're such low stock environment, everybody, not everybody, but nearly everybody needs a buyer's agent because they just can't find the house that they want. They can have all the other, they could be time poor, they could be super wealthy, they could be service abusers, I'm a service abuser, car wash, mortgage broker, financial planner, you know what I mean? And they outsource everything in their lives. Perfect. But it all comes down to, if they could find the house themselves, they would have bought it. And if they can't, they want and need help. So it's not price point related. And therefore, as agents, if you guys are going to refer to each other, it's just the dialogue.
Okay.
I think more so than
Do you
anything
go
else.
into agencies or your referral agents and coach them about how to refer you?
Yeah.
How do you do that? Like if you were to coach me.
Yeah, okay. The first thing I would tell you to do is don't profile them. If I do a negative, don't try and find a person that you think might need a buyer's agent. Assume that everybody needs a buyer's agent.
Ooh, good point. Cool.
Listening?
You're like these.
I'm Gary's business. But no, so if you assume that everybody needs a buyer's agent, you can pop that question. And I think it's like anything, like no matter what you sell, it's just having the dialogue ready. And if you've got the dialogue ready, you'll be super confident to say it to anyone that you come across. And with the agents that refer to me a lot, I'm not trying to take things away from them. So if they think that buyer's hot on that property, I'm like, don't mention me, sell them the house. Yeah. But once you realise that seller's not keen on that house and you don't have anything else in your pipeline to show them, a really simple question can be, have you thought about using a buyer's agent?
Just simple as that.
So simple. It's so easy. It's so open. It's really hard to then get shut down. It's like, can I introduce you to Jordan Navybox at Cohen Handler? They're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But if you just say something super simple like, have you thought of using a buyer's agent? It's a really, it's not a scary question for you to ask, and it's not a scary question for them to answer. And that's where you're going to get into the conversation, because they're going to say to you things like, what's a buyer's agent? Fortunately, they don't ask that as much as they used to.
Yeah.
And we have the show to thank for that a lot, to be honest. It's just awareness of what buyer's agents do, which is pretty cool. But that is a question that you could get.
Yeah.
But it might be, I thought about it. Do they help, do you think? And that's your window now to go hard. Or, I was actually thinking about using one. Do you know a good one? That's the best one. Love that response. But there's so many, and you'd probably have to chat with an agent to ask them. I could put you in touch with some of our good referrers, but there are those pain questions that you can then ask them to then make that intro super, super warm.
Mate, in terms of daily routines, how do you structure your day? your day-to-day?
Yeah, ripper question. Buyer's agency, and you might attest to this, is far more reactive than seller's agency. I mean, look, every agent's probably like, you're an idiot, because I understand that agency is also reactive. But because we don't have set open home times, we don't have, the admin is somewhat less intensive. We don't have the marketing plans to prepare. We don't have photography booked in. There's less of those appointments that can be booked a week in advance. It's like if we get a new referral or a new lead in, we're calling them like that day. If your client rings you and says, that property you sent me last night on WhatsApp, I fucking love it. When are we seeing that? You're seeing it that afternoon. And I know in the agency world, there's stuff like that. When a buyer inquiry comes through, you go and show them the property.
Yeah.
But buyer's agency is super reactive in that sense. So what I try to do is I try to have big gaps available each day for signing up clients and inspecting properties. So that overnight, because my WhatsApp runs wild overnight, because a lot of my clients are time poor and they're messaging me between 8 and 11. So I'm up messaging them on WhatsApp at that hour and pretty much getting ready for tomorrow. Because that's the time where I'm finding the leads. Like like yesterday, I was on the road with a client from Sydney between 8 and 6, right? Driving around. Yeah, I had someone with me that was driving sometimes, so I could respond to messages. But it's pretty rude when you got a client in the back seat doing a sign-up call.
Yeah.
It's just not possible. So, I had 4 or 5 leads come through yesterday. Where am I going to call those? So I tried churn through 2 or 3 last night. I did one this morning. Got another 2 after this. But it's hard to manage it otherwise. So I like to have blocks. Rather than having blocks of do this, it's like blocks of room for reactive tasks. Yeah.
It's a different world.
Yeah, if you chunk your calendar up like I did yesterday, you leave yourself so short. It's sometimes impossible. You've got a good client coming from interstate and they want to spend the day with you and they're not going to be here for another 3 weeks. You've got to show them as many properties as you can. But yeah, they're the tough days.
Are there particular price points where it's easier to negotiate with the owner/agent?
Yeah. I honestly believe the midpoint at the moment is an easier price range to negotiate.
And why is that, do you think?
I think the sellers they're more genuine and they're less attached to their price.
Yeah.
It's like clients say, why is your fee a percentage? And there's a myriad of reasons that we can go through. But in the high price point, the real estate agents are more sophisticated, so the negotiation is harder because of that agent. Also, the sellers are far more sophisticated. Yeah, they're wealthier. They've got less need to sell at a cheaper price, just because it pleases you. And so naturally, that is a harder price point to negotiate in. The flip side, the 500 to $1 million price point at the moment is super, super hard to negotiate in. Why are there so many investors? Again, sophisticated negotiators who don't need to sell, will sell at a price, but don't need to. Whereas in that mid-range price point, 1 mil to 2.5 mil Brisbane, these are, a lot of sellers that are selling because they've just bought another house. And they do need to transact on that property to settle on the next one. And so that's always an easier negotiation.
So just to summarise, you've come into Brisbane, Queensland market, minimal database in terms of client coming on. You've built relationships with the core agents here to generate referral business. Are there any other tools or processes you follow to prospect before we move on?
To be honest, no. It's the same process when it comes to the mortgage brokers. Like they're the second most likely person in Australia, in the world, to come across a property buyer, and they're also incentivized for that buyer to buy. If a mortgage broker sends you a client and they buy, the mortgage broker gets paid because they write the loan. So that's a really another high value referral partner, I think, of mortgage brokers. But between, and there's, again, I can go through the list, there's 20 to 50, I don't know, different referral types. I just think the strongest are real estate agents and brokers. So if someone's starting out, and you've got a list of the people that could refer, go and get the low hanging fruit, go and get the big juicy ones straight away. And that's the agents and the brokers.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, man.
And then as you grow and you're like, okay, I've tapped into that market and I'm like fully saturated, I'm getting leads from everywhere, then you can start tackling these other referral partners as well.
What's your why?
That's a really interesting question. It's, for me, it's to strive to be better and not to be corny. And I love my family and and they love me, but I just get a kick out of winning. Yeah. I get a kick when a lead comes in and I'm tired and it's 7:30 p.m. and I'm still here. I get a kick out of ringing them and go, you know what, I'm gonna sign this client up. They're gonna buy with me. And I get a kick out of when the negotiation's really tough of doing that deal. Yeah, the money's amazing. It's provided awesome things, and it's helped me to diversify, and that's great. But the real reason I hustle is not because of the money that will hit the account. It's because I can go, I just did a deal. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's like playing computer games. I played computer games a lot as a kid.
Which one, LOL or WoW?
WoW.
Fuck yeah.
And you'd log into WoW and you'd be like, I'm logging in today to get more gold. What are you going to buy with gold? Like a fake sword that does nothing, to your real life? Yeah. And that's the same thing in real estate. It's like, I think I'm going to log in, I'm going to get into the office today because I'm going to crush it. Yeah. And I'm going to sign up a client and I'm going to buy for that client. And, that's going to make me feel awesome. It's like a fat adrenaline rush. Trust me, I love the money, but it's a byproduct. It's chasing that win that I really do this for.
Yeah. Is it, in terms of, were you doing that from the beginning? Was that your why from the beginning, or was there something deeper that kept you up at night that you go, shit, like I've got low money or what have you? Has your why changed, or has it always been that?
Good question.
Yeah, that is an awesome question. I've just always been a super competitive person, and I think it is that nature of wanting to win. It's trying to be better than every competitor. It's when that client is challenging to communicate our value to. Yes. It's really knuckling down and going hard. You could be super cocky and go, oh, whatever. You know what I mean? Or you could just give up. But it's like, no, be intuitive, go assertive, stick with the conversation and get, you have so much pleasure communicating your value to someone that doesn't see it before they got on the phone.
Run me through what that process looks like for you. You've got a new lead come in 7:30 last night. How do you close them?
It really just comes down to communicating value. Before you can communicate value to someone, you need to find out if they need help.
Ooh.
Yeah. Right, so that's the biggest thing, because if they don't need help, no matter if I'm Tony Robbins or Jordan Navybox or someone that just started yesterday, you're not going to be able to sell to them if you don't know if they need help or if they don't need help. So first step is always to find out if they need help. Then you can identify if you think you've got the tools to help them. And then rather than selling them on how good you are and how good this property you sold or brought, it's, I helped another client with the same problems as you this way. And this is how their experience went. Does that sound like you? Yes. And that's, that's the short version of how we communicate our value.
You just said, if you have the right tools to help this person.
Yeah. But
how did you build your toolbox 7 years ago when you started here, when there was no, there's no coaching really in the buyer's agent space, especially that long ago?
Yeah. You just have to, you learn. You meet some really, the clients that I serviced 7 to 10 years ago, I have a lot to thank of them because I didn't have the experience and they gave me a go. I do now, but it was those clients back then that go, you know what, this guy is 22. This guy has only bought 5 properties in his whole life, 4 clients. And he's only bought 1 for himself. So I'm more experienced than him, but I don't have the time. I don't have the energy that he clearly has. So I'm going to trust him with this. Yeah. And so that I'm really thankful for. But it's just volume. You buy hundreds of properties a year over multiple years. You know every street. You know every house. You know the owner of that house. You know what it sold for the last 3 times. And you learn that.
Wow.
But that's just volume. You can't learn that overnight.
Yeah. How many properties do you reckon you've bought now, all up in your career?
That's a really good question.
Circa
1,200.
Wow. 1,200.
Yeah.
Fucking mental.
I'm coming to you for some coaching.
That's insane, man.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. Like it probably started at 30 to 40 properties a year. And then after 3 years, it's really escalated to 80 to 100. And now we run at about, just my team, sort of somewhere between 170, 200 a year.
170 to 200 deals your team alone a year?
Yeah, just our team of 4, yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
That's incredible, man.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, but it's a volume game. You know, there are sellers agents out there that can write our fees from far fewer deals with a higher average price point.
Yep.
So yeah, we definitely run a volume game, but it's yeah.
Would that be the most transactions via a buyer's agent in Australia, or the other guys that do more? Because that's mental.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I know in Melbourne there's, you know, these agents that run volume, or Josh out at Rouse Hill writes crazy volume. But I think in the buyer's agency world, it has to be up there for sure.
How do you manage that? How do you manage all that stress of that many transactions?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And it's something that I've focused on a lot in the last 2 years. It's just the really refining the communication platforms.
WhatsApp?
Like WhatsApp's just become this like crazy thing, and I'm not even a good WhatsApp user. You know, people like Simon Cohen, Tony O'Doherty, they're doing voice notes every 5 seconds. Gavin, like I'm not quite on the voice note train yet. But having these WhatsApp groups and just ensuring that before I go to bed every single night, I check every group, make sure I have no blue dots. And I also just run through my client list every night before I leave to ensure that I've achieved for them what I wanted to achieve. And if I haven't, that's the first thing I'm doing the next day.
Yeah, right. And are you contacting every day in your WhatsApp, or just when appropriate?
No, for us in buyer's agency, we're about a 2 to 3 day communication window as a non-negotiable. Obviously, when you're mid-negotiation,
Yeah, it's frequent.
you're like once an hour every for 2 days. But
Yeah.
when you've got a difficult client, and it's not them that's difficult, it's their brief.
Yeah.
Right? And not too difficult that you won't buy, just, I'll give you an example. Try and find a house in New Farm at the moment, modern, for $6 million. Extremely difficult. There's only probably 20 houses in New Farm that fit that mould, and none of those 20 owners will sell right now. So when you have a client that wants one of those houses, it's not necessarily possible that you can contact them every day and say, now 7 Tenerife Drive is going to be for sale. You just can't make that call every day. But it's just a 2 to 3 day window of, I've done this for you.
Yeah, I agree. I'm very similar. Something that I'm wanting to get better at is, whilst maintaining that professional 2 to 3 days, is building more rapport so that we can become friends as well as just professionals.
Yeah.
How do you, because then obviously off the back of that you can generate more referrals. How do you incorporate much of that into your business model?
Can you just ask it again? Sorry.
So at the moment, from a professional standpoint, let's say you contact your clients every 2 to 3 days.
Yes.
Relating buyers agency activities. Do you introduce anything outside of that helps build the rapport with the client? So maybe client dinners, taking them out, picking up the phone, things like that, to build a relationship outside of just the professional?
Oh yeah, that's a really good call. So like a lot of my clients have become friends, especially me moving into Brisbane. We knew nobody. That a lot of my current friends that I've built over the last 10 years were clients. Like two of my best mates, were clients.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, that we see every weekend. But it's a feel thing, right? You don't want to force it, but 100%, if you're vibing with a client, you're gonna say, the 4 of us should catch up for dinner, or let's just go for coffee in the morning. Even if we don't talk about real estate, I'd love to catch up. We haven't spoken in the last week. Awesome opportunity. But the big thing for me, and to any of the other buyers agents out there that are dealing with a brief that they're struggling to service, the one thing I tell our guys is, invite them for an hour session in the car with you, driving around their suburbs, and let them point out houses that they think they would buy.
Wow.
Right? Okay. Because they might point out a house that you go, shit, that's not their brief. I didn't think they would like that house. And they point out, they go, no, that's really nice. I've always driven past that house and liked it. And you go, well, they're sellers. So it's just that if you're struggling to find a property for a client and you've rung every agent, you've RP'd out of the shit out of everything, and you're like, I just can't, you've looked at all the rentals, I just don't know how I'm going to buy for this client, put them in the car with you, and take them around for an hour or so.
What are you showing them in that trip? Stock online or just going through a suburb and anything?
Oh, it's honestly just driving around and letting them be the boss even.
Yeah.
Like I tell them to bring a notepad.
Wow.
Yeah, I tell them to bring a notepad, bring a pen. We're going for a drive. So if it's husband and wife, one of them will have the notepad and the pen. I'll put them both on the same side so they're both looking at the same windows.
Yep.
And we'll say to them, okay, point out any houses you think you would like. And it's a good education tool as well because they might point something out. Their budget might be 2.5 and they might point out a property that's worth 4 million.
Mm.
So in a non-smart ass way, you're going to say, yeah, unfortunately, they got an offer last week at 3.8, if it's true. If not, you could say, yeah, that property's on a bigger block than it seems. It's at least 4 million, that house, and they can put that to bed. Because a lot of the other time, some of the more difficult clients, and this is if they are difficult clients, may assume that you're missing things.
Yeah.
It's very unlikely, but if you've ever had that happen, by getting them in the car and showing them how much product knowledge you have and how much you know about these sellers, what their expectations are, whether they'll sell, whether they won't. When they last tried to sell and it failed because they're overpriced, etc., they go, wow, my guy's really on top of this stuff. But yeah, just letting them point out houses and say, what do you think? Like, is this in my budget? Do you think I could get this one? Is awesome to open things up for you. But then as you drive past houses, you can say, oh, they would sell. Oh, really? Love that house. It's 3 million. Oh, no, I think for something like that, we could stretch to 3. Okay, cool. So you learn a lot about your client in that session and you might uncover a gem that you didn't find before.
Yeah, okay.
That's really powerful because I've got something right. I could use that right now with a client.
With one of your clients? Yeah, do it. It's awesome.
That's awesome, man. So we've kind of covered prospecting, a bit of client management. Tell me about the sourcing component, how you generate the properties.
Yeah, this is something that I'm super passionate about because when I started in that job after that whiskey and the 3 weeks of hounding for the job, they showed me the whiteboard. We had a whiteboard back then. And they circled 3 of their clients. I think there was about 20, 25 clients on the board. They circled 3 and they said, these are the 3 we want you to find properties for today. Excuse me. And he gave me a printout of what I should say to the real estate agent in trying to find a house, full stop. And he said, now apply that dialogue to those 3 buyers, go. See how many you can do. So that was my first day on the job. And it turned out that was my next 2.5 years. I very rarely went to appointments. I very rarely, ran the buy. I was purely ringing agents, and I built some awesome relationships with agents in that time period in Sydney, but in Queensland for the investors. But yeah, it's just ringing the agents. We have a thing in our office where if you're doing resourcing, you're filling your call log. Apple's changed their rules. It sucks, but
you call it resourcing?
Resourcing.
Resourcing.
Yeah, we find trying to find houses. We call resourcing, but basically, for us, if you hit your recents, phone's frozen, classic. If you hit your recent call log and you go to the bottom at say 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that should say 10, 11 a.m. The bottom one, which is there's 100 on an iPhone.
Yeah.
So that's the drive you have to have for resourcing every single day. And I know in the sales world that's in prospecting, it's 100 a day minimum. But yeah, for us, same deal when trying to find houses. And then some of the agents get the shits. But how we can avoid agents having the shits is making sure that so many buyers agents call for mysterious clients that don't fucking exist, just to get stock and make relationships and go and see houses. Make sure you're calling about real clients. Make sure you're giving feedback. That's
especially to off market.
Every buyer's agent's pitfall in building rapport with agents, and I do it. These guys do it. We all do it, but we just have to strive every day to be better at it. Like when they tell you about a property, giving feedback, or rather than pretending you've got a client and saying, "Oh yeah, that could suit someone that I've got. Let me come back to you," right? And because you don't have a client for it, you just forget about it and you don't do anything. But if you just tell them on that phone call, be honest, I don't actually have a client for that property.
Yeah.
They're not expecting you to call back now. And that's one less thing you have to do that day.
It's true.
Try and give them feedback up front because then they're not waiting on the phone for you to come back to them. And if you do have a client, just try as much as possible to come back with feedback. But yeah, 100 calls minimum when you're looking for a client.
And so let's say you've got a patch, and you've got 5 clients in that patch. How frequently are you calling the same agents each week to source?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Because we do run a lot of clients, we will speak to most of these agents every day, but we're ensuring that it's a different brief. Because they're going to get the shits. If you call them every day and you call for the same client, they will, gristle. But if you call them on Monday and that day you're running, because like in Brisbane, I'm sure it's the same in Sydney, but I definitely know it's in Sydney. Like you might call Alexander Phillips chasing a house in Vaucluse on Monday, but then you might call him on Tuesday chasing a house in Bronte for a completely different client. Yeah. So you've spoken to Alex 2 days in a row for a resourcing purpose, but it's about 2 different clients. He's extremely happy to take that call. Right? And same with the agents in Brisbane. Like a lot of new farm agents list property in Ascot. So if you ring them with a new $6 million new farm brief, and then on Tuesday call them about a $3 million Ascot brief, and then on Wednesday call them about an apartment buyer that you've got at Tenerife for $2 million, they're going to be very happy to take those calls and let you know about the stock that they have for those different briefs. In an ideal world, you ask them about all 3 while you've got them on the phone, but at least you're giving them new information that there's this buyer in the market looking for this. They're super stoked to take your call. If you call for the same brief 2 days in a row,
you're a pain in the ass.
You're a pain in the ass, yeah, really. I mean, you can say the dialogue is, just following up from our call yesterday, I don't suppose you thought any further after our call. It's like, yeah, that's kind of what an email and a text is for.
Yeah.
But yeah, and look, and we do it. Like we make mistakes and we call the same agent twice just because they're on the hustle. And they have it going like, look, I just wanted to check just in case something came up. Because you've got to remember, when a real estate agent, well, you would know this better than I do, but when a real estate agent gets a appraisal lead in, you're like, your adrenaline's running, your heartbeat's pumping, you're like, let's go, baby, what are we going to do? And unfortunately, especially if you have a lot of buyers agents calling you, that person that we're talking about, like this mythical person that we're talking about now, hypothetical person we're talking about now, resourcing, might not be top of mind for you.
Yeah.
Even though they called you yesterday.
You might remember it.
Yeah. You might have a potential seller that you're trying to help that could suit that property. You're going to call them.
Correct.
Right? And you might have forgotten about that call from yesterday.
Yeah.
So what I say to my guys is you've got to be careful about it and you've got to do it well. And as long as you have good rapport, it's okay. But if you say, have you appraised or have you heard about anything since yesterday or since Tuesday, since we spoke, that could suit Susie, you might go, yep.
Oh, if I've listed something, 100%.
I'm going to see it this afternoon. I didn't know about it yesterday, but now I do.
Yeah, correct. For sure.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, try not to be annoying, even though I know we are for some people.
And so like Kevin in our area is the off-market king where he'll run a lot off-market. Would you advise buyers agents like myself to get Kevin to send every single property through, even if I don't have the client? Like how would you manage? Do you keep a record of all your off-markets?
That's we do for a lot of different reasons. To go on your question, it's like real estate agents having knowing about a buyer and you don't have anything for them, but when you get that call into a house and you're like, oh, that's going to suit David, you're like, oh, I'm going to piece this off-market deal together. This is awesome. I'm going to beat one of my competitors who sells more than me in that suburb, who will probably get the listing if they're going to go to market. But if I sell it to David, it'll be over before they even meet that guy.
Yeah.
Right? So that's in the real estate world. In the buyer's agency world, if you note down an off-market property, even if you don't have a client for it that day, again, be honest to the agent. I don't have anyone for it now, but if I do, I'll let you know.
Yep.
Cool. If you sign up a client in 3 days that suits that property, boom, you're going to go and do a 24-hour deal.
For sure.
So that's one good reason. But yeah, in terms of where we're noting it down, we have a really big database of off-market properties. We have which agent told us about it.
Yep.
Because that's really important for us. It's, I've got really great mates in the real estate industry that would love me to buy everything off them, but it's just not possible. So from a trust perspective, we put in our spreadsheet their name next to the property. And if someone tries to enter that property in again, it comes, beep, beep, this is already in here. and it goes back to that. In Queensland, we call them Form 6s, not agency agreements. Once they've got the Form 6, you go with the agent that has the Form 6 because that's a legal obligation. However, until they get a Form 6, and a lot of agents tell us about properties without having an agreement, we go back to the agent that told us about it first.
Yeah.
So that's what that's for. Plus, we have incentives for the team who, like if Anna, for instance, finds a property and puts it in the spreadsheet or puts it in our group WhatsApp, and then Josh buys that property in 2 weeks' time, Anna will get a bonus commission from that.
Yeah, nice.
So yes, in our database, it's which agent gave it to us and which buyer's agent found it.
I guess my last question of advice would be for a newer buyer's agent that's entered into the industry or about to step out from being an associate buyer's agent to being a standalone buyer's agent.
Yeah.
What would be your key advice for someone in that position?
Good question.
That's an awesome question. It's definitely respect where you came from. I think is really key. I think that's more in the sales world than it is in the buyer's agency world. You know, I started from scratch when I left and started Cohen Hanna in Queensland, and it's so easy to do, and it will just save you so many less headaches than dealing with that crap.
Yeah.
But it's going back to what I said, whether you're leaving an associate position, it's actually way easier to leave an associate position and become a buyer's agent than it is go from a sales agent to a buyer's agent, because you've already got really good relationships with so many agents. So when you go out on your own as an associate, go and foster those relationships. Pinpoint the ones that, because you might have relationships that are on the back of your buyer's agent that you worked for, having those relationships. So
Yeah, not you.
save yourself the headache, avoid those. But that's the best thing. You've got so many people in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, Darwin. Like, there is so many real estate agents compared to buyers agents. It's a joke.
There is a lot.
I run my business in sort of not the larger team. My team of 4 off about 6 real estate agents that refer to us.
Yeah.
And Simon Cohen in Sydney is the same. He's maybe less. I think he's off 3 or 4.
Wow.
Yeah, we get leads from other agents, but in terms of the focus ones that are sending multiple per week clients to us to service, there's really 4 to 6 in our team.
Yeah.
That are doing it. So anyone new that's getting into it, you don't have to hit up everyone and anyone. I suggest that at the start so you can find who you gel with.
Yep.
But find those people that you gel with.
And really foster them.
And sometimes friendship trumps experience. Or not sometimes, like nearly always.
Yeah, 100%.
If that real estate agent likes you, they'll refer to you over someone else who's a better buyer's agent.
So true.
So if you're starting out with you coming from an associate to a buyer's agent or no experience into the buyer's agency world and you're trying to get introductions to clients, befriend a few agents and they're going to, genuinely, and they're going to refer to you more than other experienced buyer's agents that they used to refer to.
Yeah, so all the agents that get hit up by Biddle in the next couple of days, he actually doesn't want to be your mate.
As you're speaking, I'm thinking, which agents in the hills am I catching up with for coffee?
Yeah, if he rings you, just ring someone from Cohen Hanna.
I caught up with a few of the Lewis car guys before I came to Queensland because I'm like, I want to start seeing if there's opportunity to get business from them, but they nurture their buyers quite heavily.
They're really big buyer nurturers.
How do you manage agent, or you just move on to a different agency?
No, so in a situation like that, and it's common in Queensland as well, especially in the Gold Coast and Byron. Like Byron's a huge buyer nurturing market.
Yeah.
You want to help explain to the real estate agent that they can come on the journey as well. Just because there's massive perception that once you refer a client to a buyer's agent, you lose contact. And that's the fear, especially if they've got a house to sell. That's the fear. Take them along for the journey. Sometimes it's weird, but it happens. Sometimes we include the referring agent in the WhatsApp.
Wow.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because
That's really good.
That is a good idea.
A lot of
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
An agent would love that.
Agent loves it, froths. And the client doesn't mind it either because they might have built a really good relationship with that agent beforehand and they still want to be fostered by them.
Wow.
So you got to have some level of independence because you want to do a good job. And sometimes if there's too many cooks in the kitchen, you can muck with your rhythm. But bring them on the journey, make them feel comfortable with how you're servicing their customer. because they're going to service them a certain way, and their resistance to change of someone else is going to service them a way that I wouldn't. So bring them along with the journey, and they're going to feel a lot more comfortable referring to you than not. And it's like really reassure them that I've got so many agents that refer to us that we then end up buying a property off.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. And that doesn't mean, what was the point of referring them in the first place? Had they have not seen all the other houses.
Yeah, that's right.
Had we have not been so on the brief with that referring agent and them being invested in our process as well, they probably wouldn't have prospected that house.
Yeah, very true, isn't it?
Right? So yeah, if you just tell them where you're at, how you're going. The one you got to be careful with the WhatsApp, and this is where we do get non-disclosures signed, is you don't want them crossing the boundaries of the other off-market properties. So that's where you got to be super, super cautious, and that's where some BAs outside of CH have made errors. But yeah, to the as far as they can go, or as long as you really trust them and they're a really good sales agent and they just don't care and they can work independently of that, then yeah, bring them on for the journey. Show them your process, get them comfortable with your process. Once you've got them on board, they won't need that anymore.
Genius, man. My last question for you is, you've got experience in investment advocacy, owner-occupier, and then also being geographically based. What's your advice for a buyer's agent in terms of growing a fruitful business? Do they be a master at a core area? Do they specialise in owner-occ? What advice would you give on people starting out to get proper momentum?
It's an awesome question, because starting out it's difficult, right? You're definitely financially motivated most of the time more than the other motivators. So if you get a client in Carindale but you're trying to be a buyer's agent in Ascot, you're going to take the client in Carindale. Okay, and you're going to nail it for them. And when you're starting out, you'll find yourself going in waves. Like you might go and buy 5 or 6 properties in a row in the Blimba, Hawthorn, Coorparoo area, and then you get a couple of leads over in Paddington, and then you'll go on a run in Paddington because the agents are getting used to you talking to them on the phone, etc., etc. So obviously, fortunately, with us having multiple area specialists, they stay in their areas as where as possible. Not so there's no conflict in the office. Our guys can buy wherever they want, whenever they want. But the reason they do stay in their area is so that they can build relationships and be a real king or queen in that market. But when you're starting out, you don't have that luxury. Deal comes in, you're taking that deal. So learn as much as you can. Speak to the real estate agents, find out where the market's at. Go to all the open homes. You just learn as much about that market as possible so you can service that client far better than them doing it themselves, because that's why they're paying you. But yeah, if you get a client out of area and you're starting out, my recommendation is to take on that client. I could be selfish and say refer it to Cohen Hanna and we'll pay you a conjunction referral fee and we'll look after them better than you. But yeah, if you're starting out, I think take on the client. But then in terms of your networking, don't then go and network in that area for new business, unless you want to then become the Carindale specialist. But represent that client, do an amazing job for them. But whilst you're doing that, keep prospecting in that area where you want to be.
Same principle as sales.
Is that right? Yeah.
Same thing, yeah. Well, the correct model.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Not what everyone does, but the correct model is that.
Sometimes you've got to sell something there, but then you sort of
100%.
get back to your craft. Totally.
Legendary.
Mate, that was phenomenal. Thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything else you'd like to share or add you felt we've missed?
No, I think we had a really good session.
Killer. Smashed it.
We'll do another one.
Yeah,
You're a
that was awesome. I really enjoyed that.